Alliance includes major players in the digital finance sector such as Maya, GCash, RCBC, CIMB Bank, Cebuana Lulier Bank, Tonic, GoTime Bank, GrabPay, Sendit, and Smart Communications. Well, with us now for more is Fintech founding chairman Lito Villanueva. Good to see you again, Lito. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me again, Kathy. Good morning.
Good morning. So what are some of the steps taken so far by Alliance members in, say, the last 48 to 72 hours to immediately address, access, and protect consumers?
You know, we have intensified efforts in making sure that we can provide the consumers more protection insofar as having to control the supposed, addiction to gambling. And in fact, we have received the draft circular of the BSP, and we are really pushing for that immediate enforcement. In fact, we even suggested additional controls or safeguards, and one of which is really having to ban celebrities or influencers in promoting online gambling, and also having to come up with geofencing within 1 kilometer radius of schools, churches, and hospitals, and having to also have a clear mandate amongst PSPs or the payment service providers, online payment or the operator of payment services to secure prior BSP approval or authorization for any onboarded licensed or legitimate online gaming operators. And another thing, Kathy, is also having to set transaction velocity checks, to curb excessive use and prevent financial harm. And one of which is just similar to how you operate casinos, for example. You have to provide show money, making sure that you have the capability to really to gamble or to be inside the casino. In this particular case, if your wallet balance is, say, below 500 or below 100, you should not be allowed to bet or to participate in any online gaming or gambling. And one of the things that's as well is if you are now playing online, and if you have an online gaming transaction account, which should be 1:1, you will also be banned to access any online lending platform or facility. So making sure that you will not be able to lend or to borrow money for you to use for online gaming or gambling.
It's a lot more guardrails than what the Bangko Sentral has proposed. Could you give us some idea of how it's being deployed and how you're intending to put this on scale for the Fintech Alliance members?
Yes, one of the things that we are really pushing is making sure that we standardize all of this, guardrails, making sure that all licensed and covered institutions within BSP, framework would have to follow these initiatives. The thing here is that some players already pushing for it or already applying those safeguards. And there are some that are yet to apply those guardrails. But the thing here is that we are, based on the circular or the draft circular, they have 6 months by which they have to conform in making sure that they can comply with all of these requirements or regulations.
Now, you've recommended to regulators the imposition of reasonable restrictions on access to e-gambling platforms. Could you elaborate exactly what reasonable restrictions constitute, now that you've just mentioned that you've implemented a couple more guardrails than what the Bangko Sentral has proposed?
Yes. Well, having to define, that reasonable guardrails or safeguards would definitely be relative, right, or subjective. So it really depends on how the operator or the e-wallet provider or PSP would have to adapt to that, right, and making sure that, say, for example, they could set the limits for as low as, say, 500 or 1,000 or 100, making sure that only those who are capable of betting or being part or gambling would be allowed to participate, right? But in having to make sure also of having to leverage technology for us to do, as I've said, geofencing, even in those areas where there is high poverty incidents. right? For example, in rural areas where there's a high concentration of 4P CCP beneficiaries, we can actually ban the use of, or restrict the use of online gaming platforms in those areas. So I think these are some of the initiatives or some of those guardrails that we are trying to implement amongst the members of the Fintech Alliance.
What's your view of a total ban on e-gaming?
When you say, it depends really on government on whether they would implement a total ban or a partial, partial or how would I say it, partial ban. Because again, as I've said, even before this online gaming or online gambling has been in existence, all these PSPs or e-wallet providers have been in existence. So with or without this, they will still operate because the very essence of us being part of this ecosystem is really to provide digitalization across payment sector insofar as having to provide ease of use, transparency, and efficiency.
Now, there's that view and that perspective of concerns that regulatory controls might limit innovation or even disrupt legitimate business operations. How are you now going to strike that balance in order to thrive in the setup that we have now?
Thank you so much for that question, Kathy. I mean, that's actually one of the pillars by which Fintech Alliance was really created, to make sure that we provide, we support BSP and we encourage BSP to provide an enabling regulatory framework that would further encourage or promote innovation. So all of these regulations or controls are not supposed to stifle innovation. And the thing here is that, as I've said, the technology must be technology for good, and technology has to be utilized and optimized for the purpose of legitimate use cases and for to promote common good. So I think, as I've said, all of this safety nets or safeguards that we are implementing in partnership with the regulator are in place to make sure that we can really provide, at the end of the day, it's really more about having to come up with social outcomes and social impact at the center of all of these things.
Social outcomes including data privacy and, of course, user privacy. How can the Alliance balance then enforcing compliance with avoiding privacy concerns or excessive surveillance of users' financial activities?
Well, again, it's really meant to control, well, quote unquote control, insofar as having to address the potential abuse or potential, addiction to any vice. No, I mean, you have vices like smoking, drinking, or now gambling. So I think it's really more about having to ensure that we have those controls in place. And I don't think any data privacy infringement would be an issue because, as I've said, it really boils down to having a massive educational campaign or financial literacy programs that would be directed towards the users themselves. So it's really making sure that, again, it takes two to tango, making sure that the entire ecosystem, all stakeholders are well aligned to make sure that we can really support the government in educating the public against the abuses of online gambling and gaming.
Indeed, consumers do have their own responsibilities as well. Thank you so much for your insights, Lito Villanueva of Fintech Alliance Philippines.